Good morning, good morning, good morning. You're in tune to WinFM 98.9. That's on your radio dial. And for those of you who want to view me via the internet, you just go onto Facebook and just put in winfm.com, and definitely you would be able to see what's going on. You're in tune to Your Views. Your Views is a program that is aired on WinFM around this time every Friday morning. That's 10 o'clock. It's not 10 o'clock, so don't set your watch according to me. It's actually in the studios. It's 6 minutes past 10. It's a program where we normally, just like it says, Your Views. It's a program where you can call in sometimes and share your views. And most of the times we have a guest and we are discussing things that are happening in and around us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, or internationally, globally. We talk about situation that affects us. We try to bring information that are positive and that would be educational information. Hear me emphasizing the word information, because it's information. We do our research and we try to make sure that what we present would be able to help somebody or people. But even if it help one person, we have done our job, and that is really the intention. My name is Sandra Quilly Atherton. This morning I'm the host, the usual host for Your Views, and I have with me my daughter by another mother, my first girl. She is Jamal. It's always a pleasure to have her here. She is very learned. I like her a lot, and if you get to know who she really is, you do the same thing. She's very much like Jamal. Good morning. Welcome to
Good morning.
Your Views and WinFM Studios. Trent, I know that you like her too, so but can you stay out of our place now, please? Trent is fixing everything, and I know there's nothing to be fixed, but I give him the chance to do so. That's Trent. I tell you, she's addictive. I think that's one of the problems. Like I said, Your Views is a program that we try to make sure we bring information, that can help people. I want to say to those people who would have lost family members, I know how you're feeling. I have had that done too. I understand pain and grief and suffering, but one of the things is that we don't understand is that we think that death is final because we don't have an understanding of really what death is. But if you get a true understanding of what death is and realize that it's only our body, which is a vehicle that carries our consciousness, that dies, then we would realize it's not such a bad thing. Death can free you, and we know that for a fact. If you have suffering, pain and suffering, that can free you from that. But it's not always, because I think what we were taught, we think that, especially if they were not Christians, that they're getting ready to burn in hell, and those of the pain again and sufferings that we carry. But that can be a good thing. And so those of you on morning, I don't want to take it lightly, but I'm just letting you know that have an understanding. It's the consciousness live on, and as people, we have to learn to stop loving on the surface, but try to make sure we have that soul connection. So even when they're gone, we can feel their presence and we can communicate. I talk to my mother very often, and I feel like she understands me. And I mean, if you put yourself in a good enough a meditative mode, you get a lot of information and answers that comes back. But I suppose because we were not taught how to do this, we don't know what to do. So we cry, and for years we're grieving and we're hoping, but it's just what it is. That is how it was designed, and we have to understand that is part of it. And there's a lot of things because we don't have the information. Like not last night, I've been looking at the situation with this young lady, because I'm going to take a deep breath because it's what it is. I need to come back down to the center. This young lady, the Miss USA, she actually jumped to her death. And when you look and you evaluate this young lady, she was a lawyer. It means that she was intelligent. She was the former Miss USA. It means that she was beautiful. And based on information, she was living basically in a condo. That's something that she would have owned. So it means that she was affluent. So you ask, this is a beautiful lady who can get basically what she wants, because beauty goes a very long way. She was already established. She was establishing herself. She would have achieved enough. Maybe she felt like it was not enough. And we are entertained by her, or entertained by her. Some people were defended by her. There's some people who knew her and would have partied and laughed with her, but nobody understood her. Because if one person understood who she was, she might have been alive today. And that is what we do, Jamal, is that we are friends, and people take friends very lightly. We are friends with somebody and we don't know what is going on. So then let's ask, what is friendship then?
I think that when it comes down to friendships, I think that the fundamental basis of any relationship, including a friendship, comes down to trust. I trust you, therefore I can be vulnerable around you. I can let my guard down, I can strip myself down and show you exactly who I am. And I think that's the problem. It's that we will be going through so many things in our lives, and we may have 100 people on our contact list. And when we really need someone, and I don't mean physically need someone, but we need someone who we can unburden ourselves to and just feel like this person is going to provide a safe shelter for us, or at least a safe landing in case we fall. There's no one in that list of 100 people. And it comes down to this: who can I tell this to and know and feel that it is going to remain between the two of us? That's what it really comes down to. It's trust, because not everyone who smiles in our faces is going to keep our secrets, or is going to hold the things that we say to them in confidence. And I think that that's unfortunately the problem, because it creates a dynamic where people will start to suffer in silence simply because they don't feel like there is anywhere where they can trust the situation or the person to let them in and let them know what's going on, because they're afraid of the judgment or the stereotypes and the stigmas that might be attached to whatever that particular issue might be.
I like the way you say, because they don't feel comfortable enough to let people know their secrets.
Yeah.
You see, we live in a world where we have to have secrets. Why? The world, you don't know me, you judge me.
Yes.
And that is the biggest problems. And so that is one of the reasons why lots of us, women, men, we wear masks, because we're afraid to say or expose ourselves to the world of who we really are. So every day we live a lie because we're afraid of what the public is going to say, what the world, how they're going to define you. And not having an understanding of why you did what you did. And, it's the hypocritical way that human beings are, because they themselves have their own secrets. And they're the first to want to judge you. And that is one of the reasons why people find themselves in situations like this. It is sad, just like you said, you have a list of people, 100, 200, they can come to you. But when the time comes, you can't go to them. Again, that is sad, because I have had conversations with people thinking that I can trust them. But the good thing about me is that my business is on a lamppost in a plastic bag. And so anybody wants to know, it's there, because nobody defined me. I know who I am, and I do what I want to do. And if I would have done it, I suffer the consequences or reap the benefits of what are my decisions. Yeah. And people have to learn to live that life, where you don't care what the world think. I try my best not to hurt anybody. If I'm going to do anything, it would hurt only me. And so people should not bother about that. That is my business. But it's a world that we live in where everybody wants to get some dirt on you. You can't walk with your head high. You can't be the positive person you think you are, because there's always that negative person who sits there and says, look at her, she done do such and such. It's your business. And we have to learn to recognize that people do what they want to do, just like you can do what you want to do and you don't want to be judged. Use that same yardstick to, measure or to put towards how people feel and how people think by the things that you say. I'm so sorry for that young lady. She was in pageantry. People don't understand sometimes the negative impact that pageantry brings to you, because you have to go out there. You have to create an impression to the world. You have to be what the world wants you to be. And then you lose yourself. Jamal, you were there. You're a beautiful girl. And that was one of my biggest problem when I realized that the world never wanted to know you. They just want to know what you can give to them.
Yes.
And that is what is done to beautiful young women. They are presented as entertainment, and people don't know what they have to go through. But you have your story. You could have been like her.
I could have. As you and I both know, I've gone through my own struggles and had to deal with my own demons regarding that. And when I think about Chesley's circumstances, I think about the outcome. And the only difference between her story and mine was that she chose a method of ending her suffering that I was spared,
Yeah.
fortunately. But the problem is, we don't know fully still at this point whether it was a suicide. I mean, that is where the information is at least directing us to feel. But there's now this circulation of theories as to, well, maybe it was foul play and things like that. And the problem I have with that is this, as someone who's been in pageantry and in music and just kind of been in a position where you've been exploited and you participated in the self-exploitation as well, because you just didn't know any better.
But you wanted better for yourself.
Yes, I
Yeah.
often say those who know better do better. And had I known then what I know today, I don't think that I ever would have entered a pageant, because I personally and sincerely don't feel as though being paraded on a stage half naked in a swimsuit has absolutely anything to do with me being a qualified ambassador for a country.
Exactly.
And that's my problem. You smear lipstick on our faces and put heels on our feet, and that doesn't tell anyone in that audience who we are.
Change the
as
entire way
people.
you look. That's what they do.
Exactly. And then you have to maintain that. And it's the maintenance aspect of it that most people take lightly. They see the physical maintenance, but they don't see the mental and the emotional aspect of that. It's now you're in a position where you feel as though making a mistake is no longer something that you can afford to do, because we live in a society where people often don't give you the opportunity to redeem yourself. You make a mistake, you falter in life, and they will hold that against you, and sometimes not to their own fault, but because as human beings, we're all flawed and none of us are perfect. And because we're aware of this, we're so conscious of this, we're always trying to look, it's like we were talking about last week with gossiping. We're always trying to gravitate to the next person's story that is going to somehow make us feel like our mistakes and our secrets and what we do behind closed doors can now be diminished because, well, she's doing something that's worse than what I do. Or, well, this person just made a bigger mistake than me, therefore I'm not that bad. We always want to hear about what's befallen somebody else that puts us in a better light, makes us feel a little bit better about our own shortcomings. But someone doesn't have to fail for us to feel like we're succeeding. Someone doesn't have to be walked on for us to rise above. Another woman doesn't have to be degraded in order for me to feel complimented. And I think that when we start to just take responsibility for our own feelings and our own actions and just hold each other account, but hold each other account with compassion, I think that that's where we might have some resolve in all of this. But I wondered to myself, and I communicated this with you, had she been an unattractive, unsuccessful, darker-skinned Black woman, I don't think that there would have been as much question around whether she committed suicide or not, because there's such a stereotype as to what the face of suicide sometimes looks like. A beautiful, accomplished, as you just described some of her accolades, a beautiful, accomplished young woman, it's hard to grapple with that she could possibly have anything that would drive her to wanting to take her own life. But that's the mistake that we're making, because mental illness doesn't have a face. Depression doesn't have a face. And stress doesn't have a face. And when we're dealing with things and we feel as though we have to maintain this facade of this perfection, it becomes very difficult to then open up and confide in someone. I am not perfect. I've made mistakes. I just did A, B, C, D yesterday that would make, my family completely that would have my family disappointed, or would make me lose my job, or I'm an alcoholic, or I do drugs behind closed doors. There are things that we all deal with, and because we feel as though this image cannot be tainted, we can't afford for it to be tainted, because every single aspect of our life revolves around that. The fact that we're beautiful and accomplished and people know us to be this one-dimensional thing. So to break away from that, it can really put a lot of burden on someone. And I was there.
I was there. It's so sad about it is that people say that. You know, one of the reasons I remember when, just like you, I was forced into pageantry. I didn't want to do it because I never felt that it was right for women to go and parade themselves. Like it's just at the end of the day, you ask yourself the question, what is that going to benefit you? And you see it the night of the show, you go out and it was a fight in the back. I don't want that. If I can't go on stage like the way I look, then I'm not going to go. You know, they want to make you up like something or somebody that you're not. And you go out there with a face that doesn't fit the personality.
Yeah.
And you have to become that person after a few minutes. Because you look in the mirror, you see this face and you have to act the part. And people don't know the difficulties that presents. People see you go into pageantry. The weeks before that is the hardships because now they take you up because they think that you look good enough to go in, but then you were not looking as they would want you to. So they push on these perfect finish on you, these eyelashes and these eyeliners and lipsticks, makeup. When you look in the mirror, you're not that person. But then you have to go out and play the part. People don't know the hardships that can present to you because you're being somebody else. And you have to take that because after you would have entered pageantry, everybody wants you to look a certain way. And every time I laugh, every time I have a discussion sometimes with some people and they say, oh, Sandra, I remember when you went in for Miss St. Kitts. Oh, yeah. And I know what they're alluding to. And I'm like, yeah. And that wasn't me. As you can see, somebody else was on the stage. This is who I am. Yeah. And I'm quite comfortable in who I am because they want to know that you have to maintain that image throughout because you were that. It's not that. You know, it's a sad thing. When I heard about the young lady's story, I said, wow, people don't know the burdens, demons you have to deal with on a daily basis. Yeah. And you walk around, you have to laugh, you have to put a smile on your face because that's what the world wants to see. They don't want to hear the real or see the real you. And a lot of people are doing that today. Mental illness is a sick thing. It's a sad thing. And people takes it lightly. We had a situation recently, I see people parading this information on social media with a girl and a restaurant story, and people were making a mockery. It upsetted me. Yeah. Because people never stop to think a person in their right mind would not do something like that. And even though there must be a reason. Yes. And you cannot be, you're not sensitive enough to know it can be you. It can happen to you. All of these, because we are human, we behave the same way. It can happen to us.
But that's it. They disassociate themselves with it, and people walk around with this arrogance of I would never.
Please.
We have no idea what we would never do.
But you know, some people, and you're having a conversation. You know what the joke is? I'm having a conversation with a young lady, and she is degrading. She looks at everything, and you don't know and I said to her, I know you though. Don't do that. Yeah. Because you talk to me and you know you have made those mistakes. So why? I love Pat Ross' song, My Mistakes Are No Worse Than Yours. Not because I'm a woman or anything else, but I'm saying to women too, my mistakes are no worse than yours. You have made mistakes. Yes. You have done things that you yourself are ashamed of, and you would wish that you would stay in the closet. So if you know that for a fact, when you start pointing fingers, know that you have little skeletons inside that closet, and some people know about it and they're holding your secret. And it upsets me, really, because, you know, I always tell people, I have lots of skeletons in my closet, but the good thing about me is I've chopped off their head and I've taken away a limb or two so they're not balanced. So, I mean, walking not going to be a problem. But it's the life that you live as human. It's a journey that you're on, and you're going to have certain experiences. Some, with the information that you have, you make those decisions.
But you also hold people accountable. And even in that example, you held that young woman accountable. Yeah. And that is the problem. We often, instead of holding each other accountable, we add our 2 cents and we try to elevate the situation, because nothing makes for a juicier story than when you can add more salacious details to it. The more, unbelievable it sounds, the more ridiculous it sounds, the more people eat that up.
The more interesting
rarely do you have a person saying, but hold up, like you just said, what you're doing is wrong. I was recently invited to a party by some relatives of mine, and these were relatives who were, almost like my personal tormentors when I was a child growing up here. And even though as an adult now I've managed to let that go, I allowed myself to let them in. I allowed myself to forgive. And when I was visiting the last time, I took myself outside of my comfort zone because I thought just because this is who someone was doesn't mean that this is who they are now. So I allowed them the opportunity and I went out with them, and I sat back observing, and they spent 80% of the time that we were all together, and these were all women, talking about other people and everyone else's circumstances and situations. So this time around, when I was invited out again with them, I politely declined, but I expressed why. And I said, the last time, this is what happened. And if this is going to be the climate in this party, I personally would prefer not to be a part of a gossip party. And I feel like in saying that out loud, because they clearly didn't expect me to give a reason, I feel like explaining that it made them maybe take a step back. And you know, when it came back to me, it was, well, like people always say, you think you're better.
Yeah.
You think you're better than other people. And I stopped, and my response was, no, I'm not better than people, but I am better than these situations. I know better, so therefore I have to do better. And I hope that one day you can get to that place where you can sit around and be in the moment with your friends and your family and not feel the need to entertain yourselves with other people's misfortunes.
Yeah, it's and you see, when women do that, like you said it earlier, there's sometimes you want to elevate yourself. And in order to do so, you have to get somebody down, because it's always a comparison. I compare my life with yours, and I want to look better than you. So you dig all the dirt and you bring it up, and you talk about people's misfortune. You talk about, you know, I always tell people I don't make mistakes. It was a choice that I made with the information that I had, and I did it at that time.
Yes.
People don't know the circumstances why people do things, and sometimes it's what they have to do. It's not for you to go and judge. I have to suffer the consequences of my choices, and that is what the Heavenly Father did. He gave us the freedom to choose. That's what we have, is the freedom to choose. And when I make a choice, it is my choice.
Yeah.
Keep out, because you make your choices and I can't tell you what to do. But like I said before, we are hypocrites. That's who we
Yes.
are. Is that we have our own issues and we make other people's problem ours. I hate that. I always tell people, I do not like gossiping. There's sometimes I would entertain it because, I mean, you're saying something, and then during the entertainment, I would start looking at who we are and say, you know, sometimes we do the same thing too, for you to get the message. So you entertain and like, you need to stop this. Gossip makes me sick to my stomach, because that's all we do. We sit down there for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and we bring somebody down. And always, like you said, we add on more because the story has to sound good. And so you add on more. The person's not in a position to defend themselves, and you go with that story. And the four of you who were there, 3 didn't know, and that 3 find another 3, and they start to talk about it. I didn't know that's who Sandra was. I heard a story about that girl, and they're going to add on their own 2 pence, and then that is going to be another story. And I've seen people jump, because and when you hear the story behind why they jump, it's because they couldn't deal with the world and the way the world was so judgmental. I've seen people cut.
Yeah.
And you ask them, I don't even like to talk about it, because some people don't know how painful it is for some people that would drive them to the point where they were going to take a razor and they would just cut themselves, and they're punishing themselves. And a lot of people who take this thing so lightly, they don't know, and they make it a story. Yes. I've listened to this young girl's story. When she told me the story, because I saw her hands and I asked her, she always wore the sleeve. And I'm like, one day I said, what? You got burnt? Is that a design? Because I didn't know. I've never seen it like that. I've heard people talk about it, but I've never seen it up front and personal. And when she sat down and she talked, I hugged her and I cried. I was like, I wish I was there the first time before you did that. And then I look within myself and I'm like, You don't know. You don't know what people are going through. When somebody can inflict that kind of pain and suffering to themselves, we have not a clue what mental illness is. And it
Yes.
upsets me every time when I see people are making a mockery of it.
I've heard people, I knew someone who committed suicide a few years ago, and I remember, hearing certain people say, well, that person was just looking for attention. And I remember, and I'm in the process of finishing my first book.
Yeah.
And I put some of this in there because I felt like it was just relevant. And I heard people saying they were just looking for attention. And I thought to myself, well, how can a dead person take advantage of this
Attention that
attention
supposed you would have
because
had.
they're not here to even witness this attention that you supposedly correlate with what they've done. And as I was mentioning to you, I have always carried this burden of this secret and this experience that I've personally gone through. And you were actually the first person outside of anyone that I would have been in an intimate relationship with who ever saw beyond the scars that were hidden.
I'm gonna
You
cry.
saw the physical, but you also saw the scars that I was not showing.
Yeah.
And when I talked to you that night, it made me feel, and then having to hear Chesley's situation, it got me thinking, the more we're silent about certain things, the less we affect the change for those things to improve. And I'm at a point in my life where all I want to do is help in any way that I can. And if telling my story makes another young girl rethink her decision to self-harm or take her own life, then I'm willing to throw myself on the altar for that.
We have to find a medium for that,
I'm
Jamal.
willing
We
to do that and make myself vulnerable because I've been fortunate to where I know have a circumstance where I have friends and family members and I have such a solid support system that I no longer fear the ridicule. It's okay if you don't understand what drove me to wanting to end my own life. It's okay if you don't understand why Chesley might have done what she did. But we know that there are other women out there who will understand and who will relate to us. And those are the women that we're trying to connect with. And those are the women that we're trying to reach. Because it's not an isolated incident. We're struggling and we're suffering in silence. And we have people around us who don't even pick up on the little clues that we drop, for example. I remember before my friend passed away, she gave away her 2 pets the 2 weeks prior. She put into she put in her 2 weeks notice on her job.
Yeah.
All of these things that the people in her life did not even associate with her going through any depression because these are things that people do all the time. But we often don't ask. And this is one of the things I love about you. When you ask me, Jamal, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I know that you're asking me sincerely,
Yep.
are you okay? And I know that if the answer is no, you are willing to give me the time to tell you why. But we have been so programmed to give these generic responses and to just ask people questions just out of formalities. It's like walking into a room and saying good morning, but do you really wish those people a good morning? Are you sincere about that? When you ask someone, how are you doing? Do you really care to know how they're doing?
It's a habit.
And if you care, do you have the right intentions? Do you just want to know what's going on with them so that you can go talk about them? Or are you actually willing to listen, hear, be open-minded to understanding and help to do something about it?
I know, it's somebody calling you and asking you, it's just like you said, Jamal, is like, good morning. It's habitual. And so you said, good morning. And I would answer back, good morning. But it's not a good morning for me. But do you really want to know why my morning is not good? Genuinely wants to know
Yes.
why I'm not having a good morning, just like you said. Or and if I tell you why I'm not having a good morning, as soon as I walk out of the room, you pick up the phone. Girl, I didn't know Sandra have problems. And she walk around like everything is also good. And my story becomes a topic of discussion for you so that you can entertain others. And that has been the problem that I have. I had a situation. I don't want to talk about it like in a direct situation because it's not a good thing. I was having a discussion with this young lady, and she went away and she called me and she says, the real reason why I just had an epiphany. We're all waiting just to die. And I'm like, who would, in your right? I said, we need to talk.
Random.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. But the good thing about it is that I don't want to wait anymore. I can do it now. And I was like, what? I said, what can you do now? She said, don't have to wait anymore. I can just die. Wow. Somebody else would have taken it very lightly, but for me, it wasn't something that you take lightly. It was a serious situation.
Yeah.
It was a situation that needed attention, and you needed to talk. So I said, let's talk. Let's have the conversation. And because I never realized that depression was so, she was depressed because you see her laugh. But I am very good at picking up behind the eyes. I always look behind the eyes. And I've been asking for the longest while. I'm like, you are not okay. Yeah, I'm okay, she says. And the fake laugh would come and then she would divert the attention to something else. And I knew. But you know what hurt me most? Because I couldn't reach her then. I could not. And so when she made that statement, I felt this was the opportunity that I should seize to have that discussion because I knew something was not right.
Yeah.
But, and I like everybody else, you're afraid. And when I asked, she said, you know what? I don't trust people. And Sandra, I'm sad. I'm sorry that I have to say that to you because you've been only good to me. And I know that you're asking because you genuinely care. And I noticed that you would have picked up on something and I was trying to avoid you. But I really don't trust people. And I felt bad because, we live in a world with billions of people and you can't find one person to trust. It doesn't say good for human beings. Right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why don't you trust? Give me that chance. Don't put me in that bag with all of those people who would want to, who doesn't mean good. Give me that chance. And you have, if you don't trust me, you're going to kill yourself. If you trust me, then we can talk about it. So whichever way, and without you talking to me, you're going to kill yourself. So let's see if you can really trust me. Right? Yeah. And we had the discussion. I don't want to talk too much about it. We had the discussion. And let me tell you something. We walk on, and I can do it. I can become her. Because when you talk about the situations that got you there,
yes,
it's an energy that you have no control over. Depression, anxiety, it's not just something that happened. Mm-hmm. People have hormonal issues. There are medical situations that will create these things. You don't know. Women who have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, anxiety is one of the effects that they have on them. People who have thyroid issue, you get up and you have those anxious moments. You don't know where it's coming from. Yeah. Women who are menopausal, these are topics that we don't want to discuss because women don't want people to know how old they are, and they don't want you to know that they're going through menopause, so they wouldn't say that these are the problems. And again, we don't have a forum for discussions like this. We don't have groups where women can come in and actually sit and talk. Because even in those groups, it's the strangest things. People who go to Alcoholic Anonymous and then people come up with a story. Oh, he went and we had this. And I'm like, but this is supposed
to be anonymous.
And we see that's what we do as human. Everything is a juicy story. When you look, and people come, how come Jamal have problems? Jamal looks so good. I didn't realize the girl have so much issues. And why are you talking to me about this? It's the question you ask. I don't want to have that, but they want more information. You were having that discussion. I didn't know you know Jamal. So she always have problems? And this is what people do. And when we hear about young women who would go and hang themselves in a bathroom, young men who commit suicide and kill themselves, it's because they do not trust the rest of us in the world.
Exactly.
They couldn't trust us. They can't trust their parents, which is sad. They can't trust their siblings, which is even worse. And there's no such thing as a best friend. Why? Because we as best friends, we see how we would have contributed to their demise because we cannot be best friends. We don't know how to be best friends. We don't know how to hear somebody's story and keep it to ourselves. Every time you encourage a conversation and then you go talk about it. And then when you talk about it to somebody who's going to spread it again. And that person is going to hear the story and they come to you and say, I thought I could have trusted you. And you know what I mean? The burden of guilt is not on you when you hear that person would have dreamt. Or the person would have cut themselves or overdose. That burden of guilt should be on you because you couldn't keep your mouth shut, because gossip is part of
Yes.
your life, and you just have to have that juicy story, not recognizing to somebody else's demise. It ends lives.
It's a lack of compassion and understanding, because we have this perception that that we need to understand everything.
Yeah.
And we need to know everything. And so if you come to me with a story, if I can't understand what would make you make the decision that you made and choose to handle it the way that you did, then I can't be compassionate. And therefore I have to go and share this with somebody else to validate the fact that I don't understand you. And then it continues from there. But I don't have to know what it feels like to be in your shoes, to acknowledge and accept the fact that your shoes are hurting your feet. You're the one wearing them. We could both be in the exact same situation, and we both interpret it differently, and we both handle it differently. It doesn't make me any better than you or any stronger than you, because there might be some aspect of my life that I'm a lot weaker in. And so I always say that shoveling dirt on someone else doesn't remove the soil off of me. It no matter how much we keep piling dirt on another person, it doesn't make me any cleaner. Just like talking about someone else's, level of intelligence doesn't make you any smarter. Calling somebody, dumb or stupid, it doesn't make you seem any more intellectual.
Yeah.
Calling someone ugly doesn't make you any more attractive.
Calling a woman a
So,
whore doesn't make you a
It
virgin.
doesn't make you virtuous.
See, I'm
Exactly. So we have to really learn how to tap into that part in ourselves where we can reach that compassion for one another and remind ourselves that, hey, even though that's not me today, I am one mistake away, one circumstance away, one illness away, one tragedy away from being in that person's position. We never know how hot the fire is until we are the one that's standing in the middle of it. So we really can't say.
And it's one of the things that we make a lot of assumptions, huh? But like I said, it's for those people who are Christians and understand the Christian religion would see why God really kicked out humans out of the Garden of Eden and then give them a second chance. And now they want to believe that God is there ready to forgive you of all your sins, and so He's going to take you back up into heaven for you to destroy it again. It's who we are as human beings. I mean, there's some good one of us. Some of us are quite good, and every day I do my own self-evaluation, because there's sometimes I want to come and talk to you because somebody would have told me something, but I didn't know how to deal with it. So I would want to come and ask you. And you first thing you want to know who it is. I can't just give you a story and you would give me some information. No, you want to know who it is, because then you want to know, well, I want to talk about this again. It sounds juicy. That's the sad thing. I come to you and I would say, I have a friend who has this situation, and are you going to listen? And after the story, you get all of the information. You're going to ask the question, so who's this friend? Maybe if you tell me who she is, I'll be able to help better. No, I just want to know how you would have handled the situation. And then they spend all day just trying. And then you come out and you say, because you think, I need, and I give you the name.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, you're going to get your part. Don't worry with her. She does that all the time. People don't. All we do is start to judge. We don't know. And a lot of times we have similar situations. I know what depression is. I know what anxiety is. I mean, I know what being in a dark area is. You are around people, but you're so lonely because you're in your own world. Yeah. We understand. People don't know these things. So when you have an understanding of every day you wake up and you're fighting these demons, you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what you have to do. And the last thing, when you get tired of it, it's like an elderly lady lying in a bed and she says, I'm tired. I want to go home. I want to go home. I'm just tired. It's the same with young people who have a life ahead of them, just like Chesley did. She's a lawyer. She was Miss USA. She has lots of accolades. She was a beautiful young woman, but she decided to just jump.
Yeah.
And we can sit and say, why did she jump? We wouldn't sit and say, I wish I was there to help her. Maybe she would not have. And that's what I always do. Sometimes people have a problem and I would say, Santa, you always want to listen. No, I'm driven to that. I always want to hear because I know I want to help. Not hear, I want to know how I can help. Not because I want to hear your story, because sad stories, it doesn't resonate very well with me. I don't like sad stories. But sometimes you have to listen, and you listen. And while listening, something would trigger something, and you might just say one thing that would stop them from thinking.
Yes.
Well, I had the same problem at one time. But you don't look like a person who have problems. Yes, I do.
And then you become relatable.
Yes.
All of a sudden, it's not just former Miss whatever,
No,
or the lawyer or the doctor. All of a sudden, in the eyes of this other person, you are simply another human being.
Having an experience.
And that's what we need to get back to, just
Yeah.
being able to relate to each other on a human level.
Take away status quo.
We don't ask the right questions.
It's true.
People will quicker ask you, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Where are you living?
Yeah.
Are you married? Do you have any children? I've never had someone really just the first question be, are you happy?
Yeah.
Because that's what really matters. A few years ago, I was in the Middle East, and it was such a slight culture shock for me. And at one point, I was looking over a balcony, and I saw this group of women, and they were all, covered from head to toe, and all you could see were their eyes. And I was just observing their movements and, seeing, different people walking back and forth on the street. And something took over my thought process at that point, and I thought, what if there was a veil over all of us? And what if we were forced to have to listen to each other and relate to each other and deal with each other on a level where there was no judgment of the physical? I thought to myself, these women are forcing you to focus on what's in their mind and what comes out of their mouth rather than what they look like.
Yeah.
And what a world it would be if we walked around and we just pretended like we couldn't see what each other looked like. I can't see that she's fat, she's skinny, she has good skin, she has, she doesn't, she has nice hair, this one has short hair, all of these things,
It's the first
these
thing you see when you go.
superficial things that we judge other people for. And I thought to myself, as I'm looking at these women and they're frolicking in their own sophisticated way, and I thought, they look so unbothered because they're around each other, but there is no judgment or comparison because at that moment, they're all on the same playing field and it's leveled because they're all physically, at least in what they're
Covered,
wearing,
yeah.
they're wearing the same thing. So no one of them is focusing on the other one's flaws or anything like that. It's literally what's coming from their heads and coming through their mouth.
Yeah.
And they're forced to have to deal with each other on that level. And it really got me to thinking, if we were to put, ourselves in a room and put a veil up and have each and every person tell their story. And then the question was to ask, okay, now lower the veils and see if you can match the story with the person. A lot of us would be very surprised
Definitely.
who would be claiming what story based on the simple fact that you couldn't see the person to judge them. And because of that, they felt like they could be vulnerable and they could just tell their story, because we never know what someone is going through. And sizing people's mental health up to what they look like, I think it's really sad, and it's a detriment to our society because it makes us really overlook these opportunities to really help. Because like I said earlier, we have a tendency to put a face to too many things. We put faces to rape victims, we put faces to violent people, we put, faces to drug addicts, we put faces to all of these things, and it allows for those other people to now slide under the radar and never get the help that they actually need.
I remember I listened to Whitney Houston's story because I was very much fascinated with her. I liked the way she looked. She was I love her teeth. She was such a beautiful girl with a beautiful voice. Yeah. And I loved her music, but I didn't know her story. That was the sad part about it. And you look at these people as icons. They're people who, like, the world cannot touch, and you felt like they were out of harm's way because the world couldn't touch them. They had money, They had looks, they had fame, they had everything. And I listened to her story one time. She talked about she coming out of the church. She started singing in the church and how shy she was, and how she started to use drugs because Bobby was blamed for the meth that she was using. And you heard the story. I cringe, Jamal. My world was shattered because this is me. I look up to this woman, and not understanding. When I say it was shattered, because I was not in a position to help. I was here. She was there. She was in a world that I wasn't a part of. And you look at it and you wish. And all I was wondering is, how can I help her? How could I find her? How could I just get somebody to say, Whitney Sandrine Sinkits wants to talk to you? It was that, because you could not believe the things that these people go through. I mean, fame, that's what fame does. We look at its entertainment, but we don't know the sacrifices that these people have to sacrifice. People sacrifice their soul. They sacrifice themselves because of the fact that they want the world to look at them in a different light. And you would do all as if just to become famous.
But we have a part to play in that.
We do.
Because we stratify these people and we put them on these pedestals. And it took me a long time to recognize that it's okay to appreciate someone's contribution. It's okay to appreciate someone's beauty, to appreciate the fact that someone's a great dancer, a great singer. But to emulate that person or to worship and start praising that person and to put this person on such a level in which they simply cannot maintain to remain there.
Yeah.
We're not helping the situation because we build them up, and the moment they show that they are human,
We bring them down.
we bring them down.
And
we're not easy to forgive.
That's the whole thing. People look at me, and I love to do this because I want people to become human and understand who we are. We are a breath. When we lose that breath, we are no longer who we are. It doesn't matter how beautiful you are. It doesn't matter how accomplished you are. It doesn't matter. It comes down to the same thing. When we no longer take that breath, then we no longer exist on that plane.
Yeah.
And so there's women. I love to see women who carries themselves well. Who not well doesn't mean that you have to dress up, but who are so assertive and who understand and very confident. I love that in a woman. It's an attraction for me. And it's the strangest thing when I start telling a woman, I do it and I genuinely mean it. I see what you don't see. I see beyond the darkness, and you don't know that. I see, and I know, I have a feeling when somebody's going through something. So they always say, you said the right thing at the right time, because I knew you wanted that. But now it's becoming an issue for me because, oh my gosh, you're such a beautiful person. Me, I don't look good. You don't know what you're missing out on. Oh, Sanjay, you're gay? That's the next story. So I am gay, and I love being gay because people don't feel like you can praise and raise.
Yes,
I don't know if you want me
of having lesbian tendencies just for appreciating another woman.
Yeah, and that's
so
why I
not
love
used to it in a genuine sense.
Exactly.
That a compliment is it just seems like you're just disingenuous because they've experienced so much of it.
Yes, but then Jennifer Nero. I have to call her name. I see her and I love her. She just creates that light in that dark space that you're in. She's such a positive person. She walks around the world like this. Absolutely, nobody can touch her. That kind of way. She exudes that confidence that you look for, and when you can see it in somebody, you hold on to that because it gives you that strength. And every time I see her, and I always tell her how beautiful she looks because she does. She's a beautiful woman who feels, it's her inner strength that I see in her, and I love it. So
what most people don't see is is the journey that it takes to get there.
Yep.
Because it doesn't mean that person is devoid of problems. It just means that they have now managed to master a way to get through it.
Yep.
And
and that's what I want. So when I look at you and I see that you would have overcome all of those challenges, the fact that you don't care what the world feels about you because you create your own world, I want to do that. And so when I see that energy, I try to hold on to that energy to see if it helps me to realize that she can do it and I can do the same. And people don't understand what people take from being in their company. So when you get there, I want to just give that positive energy. I always tell people I don't like to talk about negative things because it's so much more positive in this world. And when you sit down, a person come with you with a sad story and you want to hear, you're not doing the person any good because they're reliving it. And every time they relive it, it becomes worse. So what you do is try to avoid it, and you bring your own positive story. But you know, the first thing, I was there, but look at where I am. I say, no, you
Yes.
didn't. Yeah, I was there. Surprise. You know how many stories I made up because I want people to know that they were not there alone. It's just to get them to that point where you know that and it was in a good way, because you know, you listen, I'm like, oh no, this is really, but I said, but you know, I had that problem.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it, I'm not talking to the same person, because I want to know, but you have all of the problems that I would have had then. But no, but it is just that we have to learn to be a lot more compassionate.
Yes.
We have to know, because we go through these things, and I can't seem to understand. A woman have lost her husband to another woman. You come to me and you start talking about it because you see it. You're angry, you're sad, you're depressed, you're anxious, you want to kill him. And people would sit here and have the conversation. What happened? Who it was that she did it with? Girl, let me tell you, you don't cook for him, but let me tell you what, these are the things that we do.
Yeah.
We don't understand the pain that the person is going, and we claim so that we're friends.
We put too much pressure on each other. You know how long it was for me to be able to say I wasn't doing music anymore. And as sad as it is, because I was born here and raised here, and it was unfortunate that after coming back here to visit every so often, I was constantly bombarded with the single question, oh, what about the music? You don't do music anymore? And it got to a point where I started to feel like I was disappointing
Yeah, that's
everyone,
what it is.
simply because I had found what actually was making me happier. Because being here, singing was something I was able to do, but no one ever stopped to ask if there was anything else that I was good at, or if
Yeah.
there was anything else that I cared to do. So it took me actually about 7 years at one point, and I stayed away because in my mind, I can't return to my place of birth until I'm at a place in my life where I'm confident enough to say, no, I don't do this anymore. This is what I'm about now, and I'm happy with my
But you always
decision.
have to find a reason why. No, you don't.
Because of the
You-
pressures
yes,
that are
and
that are
that
put
is what
on
I always
you.
tell
And-
people. Yeah,
But sometimes you do need, I will encourage people to do that. Take the time that you need to work on yourself, because it's very easy to go, well, I don't like people from there. I don't like going back home, or I don't like this, or I don't like that, and keep nitpicking. I took a step back and went, I need to work on myself. It's not just them, it's also me. There's a reason I feel afraid to answer that question. There's a reason I feel like I'm disappointing people if I tell them no. And I had to work on my confidence and my self-esteem. And like you say, people would look at you and go, well, that's a pretty girl, or she's done this, or she's done that, or she's educated. They wouldn't even think, well, maybe she's very insecure. And I had to take time out of all of that and step away from it all and really work on rebuilding my own confidence, because the confidence you get on a stage, it's not real. I always say it's like packaged goods, because it's they give it to you and they fluster you with all of these compliments and all of the adoration and all of that, but it's not real, because those people have no idea who you are. Because the moment you step on that stage and you falter, they're going to let you know about it. They're not going to
Yeah.
let you live it down. I've seen young women on stage fumble with a speech or answering a question. And if you ask them that same question in a normal setting, you would be astonished at the eloquence in which they execute the answer for that question, because they're now comfortable. They're in their own skin. They're not parading around and feeling the pressure of having to impress an entire audience.
script. I call them the script.
It's
You walk around script.
it really
Your whole life is
sometimes
script.
it cripples
Yeah.
us, because I usually feel like we ourselves don't even realize that we've been crippled until we decide to take that step up and walk. It's only then you realize, well, I have a problem because I can't take this next step forward. So taking the time to really work on yourself is really a key component of this, because we can't help others if we haven't figured our own stuff out. And we also are no good to ourselves if we haven't really worked on ourselves. And it becomes a lot easier to then hold other people accountable, but hold ourselves accountable when we know the work that we've had to put in. So when you see that woman, like you say, and we're confident and we're just so happy with the life that we have now, it's because we know the struggle that it took us to kind of get here and get to this place of contentment.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what we have, what we look like, how many degrees we have under our belt, who we're married to. It has everything to do with the work that we've done on ourselves.
Definitely. And we're out of time. Every time I look up at that clock and I see 11 o'clock, I get angry because you're in a situation where you really want to talk about it. People don't understand pageantry. When you go up as a young woman, you're wearing heels that you're not accustomed to. So you have to deal with balancing on these heels. You're showing areas of your body that you're not accustomed to and that you don't want to. Because a lot of people who are very shy. I was very body shy. I mean, people think you have a great body, you need to show it. But no, but you have to. And so in your mind, you have to deal with that. At the same time, you have to go and look and behave like the face that they would have given you.
Yes.
So like I said, you're a script and you walk around and you have to be perfect. You have to read and look the script, and it is difficult. And people there pay $15 or $20 and think that they've paid enough and you need to give them more. It is the sad thing, and where women have been put in place, men have a lot of problems too because there are a lot of expectations from the world. I love what my son says: no expectation, no disappointment. You can't be disappointed if you don't expect anything. And he has come up with a lot of different things saying that would help him to become the positive person that he is. Now he has become, people will look at you and he would say, people will look at you and everybody would say, boy, how you get that done? It's all about committing to yourself, determination, knowing what you want and getting, not for the world, but for you.
Yes.
It's about making you, creating your own world where you are comfortable. And that's what I've done. I've created a world where I don't let anybody in.
We just need to go easier on ourselves
definitely.
And easier on each other.
Definitely. And people tell me, Sandra, why? I said, no, it has nothing to do with you. It all has to do with me. And it takes some time. It takes a lot of time to get you to that position because the world is cruel and we are part of the world. And so we have to understand our contribution. When we open our mouth and say something negative, one negative word, it creates negative energy into a world that is already filled with negative energies. And that is what poses a problem. Or one word would have caused, and we might have contributed to Chastity jumping. We might have contributed to the young man that went to the mountain and did not kill himself. We don't know how we would have contributed to all of these negativities. So what I'm going to say to you guys, because we are out of time, make sure that the things that you say is positive. Because guess what? That positive word could be a life. And that life could be yours that will be saved by just that positive. Practice being positive. For me, it is very difficult to say negative things. And because of habit, it becomes habitual. Start practicing being the positive person that you are.
Yes.
And you definitely can save life.
It's not arrogant to love yourself.
Nope, definitely not. It's called selflessness. Jamal, it's always a pleasure having you.
Thank
and we're going to
you.
do this. We need a medium where we can do this because there are a lot of people who are out there who they can't seem to trust anybody. And just that word of encouragement would help. And we definitely have to start working on this, making sure that we get that positive energy out. Because we see all the negativities that are out there. The TikTok, the babies are there, the negative things that are there. We have to change this.
I'll be back next week.
Definitely you'll be back. Definitely you're going to be back. I mean, next week, the week after that. It was a pleasure.
I'll be back every Friday.
For those of you who would have taken the time to listen to us, we are grateful. And we do hope that next time you'll bring your family, your friend, ask them to stay tuned to Win FM 98.9 or tune into Win FM 98.9 every Friday morning to Your Views. Your Views is a program, like I said, that we bring to you with positive energy. We look at situation in the world and we see how we can talk about it and how we can make a difference. And that's what Your Views is all about. And that is one of the reasons why I'm going to have Jamal here for the length of time that she's here. We're going to come with a topic that we think that is beneficial for you. So if you have problems, just keep tuning into Your Views. We might one of these days discuss the problems that you're having. Jamal, it was a pleasure. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
It was my pleasure as well.
And for those of you who think that COVID is not around, it's still there. There are a lot of people who are not reporting their situation. So we do ask that you continue to follow protocols, wearing your mask, hand sanitizing, and social distancing. That is a must. It has saved life. It would have helped with the controlling of COVID-19. Let us continue to do so. And that is our contribution to doing that. My name is Sandra Quilliatiton. Stay tuned to WinFM 98.9. Voices is up next.
Whenever